Good morning, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. The best thing to do in this kind of a meeting or forum is to start first thing in the morning. And then you have the rest of the day to laze around. For all of you, those of you who attended yesterday's function, Dr. Pavan Goenka's remarks there. Have the press gone so we can say what we want to. Mr. Bhargava, sir, the ministers are not here today. You can say what you want to. A very warm welcome to everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to Vishwajit Sahai, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Shri Bhargava Sahab, Chairman, Maruti Suzuki India. Shobna Kamineni ji, President CII and Executive Vice President, Apollo Hospitals. Dr. Abhay Firodia, President SIAM and Chairman Force Motors. The cobwebs have not yet cleared out. Mr. Nirmal Minda, Vice President ACMA and CMD Minda Industries. Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General ACMA. Captains of the vehicle industry, officials from the government, ACMA past presidents, my colleagues from ACMA, Executive Committee and members of ACMA, friends from the press and media, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to welcome all of you to this 57th annual session of ACMA. Mr. Sahai, let me thank you for your presence here today. I understand that the Honorable Minister, Mr. Geete, had an exigency and had to rush to Mumbai last evening. I must express my gratitude to you for standing in for your minister at such a short notice. This is yet indeed another reflection of the unstinted support that we receive from our parent ministry. Thank you so much, sir. We in the auto industry look up to your leadership to enable a smooth and sustainable transformation of the industry, especially in light of the disruptive challenges being faced by us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also fortunate to have with us today Mr. R.C. Bhargav, Chairman, Maruti Suzuki India. Sir, MSIL, under your able leadership, has played an exemplary role in hand-holding and developing the auto component industry in India. The success of Maruti Suzuki, along with the growth of the component industry, has attracted almost all global car makers to our country. Thank you, sir, for your tremendous role in the development and evolution of the supplier base in India, and we continue to look forward to your vision and guidance to stay relevant and competitive as a new paradigm of mobility is being defined in India and across the globe. Let me extend a very warm and special welcome to Ms. Shobna Kamineni ji, President CII, and thank you, Ms. Kamineni ji, for accepting our request to join us this morning. ACMA's close partnership with CII is historic and has stood the test of time. We are delighted that CII has chosen India Together, Inclusive Ahead Responsibly as its theme for the current year and resonates well with the sentiments and agenda of the automotive industry. We look forward to your views on what we must do to prepare the auto component industry to navigate successfully as we transform ourselves for a better environment, as also to deliver on the Make in India agenda of the Government of India. Dr. Abhay Firodia, very hearty congratulations to you on taking over as the President of SIAM yesterday. We at ACMA are indeed very fortunate to have you once again as one of our own presidents in SIAM. In fact, you have the double distinction of being the president of both ACMA and SIAM. Dr. Firodia, I am confident that under your able leadership, the industry will successfully navigate the current turbulence in the environment. We at ACMA look forward to close working with you to work and further strengthen our bonds with SIAM. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome our esteemed speakers and panelists. Thank you all for supporting us with your inputs for the thought-provoking ACMA McKinsey report that mirrors today's theme, Future of Mobility in India, Challenges and Opportunities for the Auto Component Industry, We shall be unveiling this report shortly, as also we have a panel discussion on the subject with eminent leaders later today. Ladies and gentlemen, ACMA's annual session is an occasion to reflect on the year gone by, introspect on the current state of the industry, and share new insights that may help us to navigate for the future. Today, the industry is going through an interesting yet challenging phase. While we have progressed well in the decade gone by, we are now entering the next phase of development where one is witnessing several regulatory initiatives that promote lower levels of vehicle emissions, higher safety standards, and greater environment protection. It is imperative for us as an industry to acknowledge this changing landscape and gear towards transforming our individual companies to the best leverage of the new market requirements. To stay relevant, we will have to acquire and develop technology relevant and at a much faster pace. In this backdrop, for 2017-18, we at ACMA have adopted the theme, Future of Mobility in India. Challenges and opportunities for the auto component industry. Given the current trajectory of growth in the automobile industry worldwide, there is an underlying consciousness on the concerns of an ever-growing vehicle park in cities and towns. In fact, there is now a general global consensus to mutually reinforce and boost electric mobility and shared transportation. On one hand, environmentally driven regulations are mobilizing lower CO2 emission for targets for automobiles across the world, and on the other hand, the fast pace of technology developments are becoming an enabler for transformation to electric vehicles, EVs, especially with expectations of the battery prices becoming affordable in the next few years, accompanied by battery charging infrastructure gaining momentum. Today, the Indian component industry, which is fast integrating into the global supply chain, cannot remain oblivious to these changes. Whilst we need to prepare ourselves for this transformation, our hands at this juncture are also full in graduating from BS4 to BS6, which by no means is a small change. Leapfrogging a generation of technology in just 3 years not only calls for sizable investments for technology acquisition and absorption, but also for the skilling of the people. On the front of e-mobility, we at ACMA believe that while the future is electric, however, the logical progression would be to move from IC engines to maybe hybrids and then on to full battery-based vehicles. This will provide the local industry with the opportunity to develop and best acquire technologies for the future generation of vehicles. The technological progression should be evolutionary rather than disruptive. One should also not lose sight of the fact that ours, being a diverse country, the mobility solutions for small towns and rural areas will be much more different from those of metros and larger cities. Consequently, a mixed mobility solution seems to be more pragmatic in this milieu. A long-term, stable, technology-agnostic roadmap for the automotive industry, driven by a sound regulatory framework, is therefore the need of the hour so that the industry can invest for sustainable growth, development in line with the aspirations of all stakeholders. We well understand that there is today a fundamental need to preserve the environment for the future generations and are committed to it. For the auto component industry, this may imply drastic changes for many individual players. Time has come for each of us in the industry to accept this new business environment and gear ourselves to cater to the demands of the future. While the regulatory and technologically driven path shift for the global automobile industry has created some uncertainties, the good news has been that the Indian automobile market remained buoyant in 2016-17. In fact, according to SIAM, the automobile industry in India has produced a total of 25.31 million vehicles including passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, three-wheelers and two-wheelers during 16-17 against a figure of 24.01 million in 15-16, a growth of 5.4%. Production of passenger vehicles increased by a healthy 9.4% to 3.7 million units, while the overall commercial vehicles production registered a growth from 3% to 7.86 lakh vehicles in 15-16 and on to 8.10 lakh vehicles in 16-17. Two-wheelers production grew by 5.8% from 19.92 million units in 16-17. In this backdrop, the performance of the Indian auto component industry, despite the challenges, has been quite satisfactory. The industry registered a growth of 14.3% over the previous year, scaling a 292,000 crore, that is US dollar 43.5 billion. Further, exports grew by 3.1% to rupees 73,000 crores, that is about 11 billion US dollars. The aftermarket continued to be vibrant at 56,000 crores, that is 8.4 billion. With the steadiness in the auto market in the country and the country poised for a better monsoon, the component sector is cautiously optimistic about the year 18-19. The regulatory environment has witnessed several key developments in 16-17, which have far-reaching consequences for the entire industry. To begin with, the auto component industry has played a critical role in supporting the vehicle industry to effectively shift and produce BS4 compliant products effective April 1, 2017. Further, as mentioned earlier, the Government of India has also announced the ambitious transition of BS6 emission standards by 2020. The industry is making all efforts to effectively adopt all these changes, but the changeover does require access and significant investment to newer technologies. In another major development, India has successfully transitioned into the Single Goods and Service Tax, GST tax regime from July 2017, a much-awaited reform. The GST Council did well to make the changeover process revenue neutral for the vehicle industry with a GST of 28% plus cess ranging from 1 to 15%. The component industry, however, has two rates. About 70% of the items are at 28%, while the rest are at 18%. We request the government that the 18% rate is more applicable for the entire component sector, as it is an intermediary one and suffers from challenges of the grey market. As is the case globally, e-mobility is fast catching the imagination of our policymakers. Very fast, I would say. While there have been some government and media reports in the recent past, a definite policy regarding the roadmap for the e-mobility in India is yet to be announced. However, yesterday, Mr. Gadkari did mention very clearly that electric mobility is the future. So we are all going to sit down and, I suppose, work out our new strategies based on his comments yesterday. But we will still have to wait for some proper documentation to come out from the government. As such, the industrial body, ACMA, is proactively working with the implication of shift towards the e-mobility and also a strategic roadmap ahead for the local component industry. Clarity from individual vehicle manufacturers in India on their plans for e-mobility, rollout and their collective roadmap from SAM will indeed help the component industry firm up its roadmap in this direction. We are confident that as various electric technologies gain traction, vehicle manufacturers will surely support localization of the components. Ladies and gentlemen, we at ACMA strongly believe that we need to move ahead on e-mobility, keeping two perspectives in mind. For one, we appreciate the vision of the Government of India to make the environment conducive for living. And on the other hand, it is also important to thoroughly evaluate whether pure electric mobility is the only solution or are there other viable solutions that exist in the market. The component industry has deployed around US $13 to 14 billion in gross block and employs over 3 million people. There is a lot of stake at IC engine powertrains today, as more than 50% of the ACMA members' revenue is related to this segment. At current, the domestic component industry does not have any technologies for zero-emission vehicles. The technological progression, therefore, should be evolutionary, facilitating the paradigm shift for the domestic component industry in India. ACMA, with its proficient secretariat, will continue to play an active role in the sector's development and transformation. Last year, the execution across different activities, despite a challenging year, was impeccable. Our regions and committees have contributed significantly by extending the reach to smaller hubs to improve the technological capabilities of the Tier 2s and Tier 3s by conducting dedicated local events. At the international level, we continue to reach out to both the emerging and the matured markets. This has increased penetration and will be essential in the future to build the capabilities of our industry. In conclusion, the auto component industry in India is today entering a new phase in terms of global exposure and adoption of technology. The priorities for the future would be to put much greater focus on R&D, to help generate intellectual property in India, where world-class production and quality will be given in. It is important to acknowledge that a transformation is round the corner, and we will have to gear up to it. As I conclude my term as the President, I sincerely acknowledge the support of the government at the center and at the states, who have been extremely receptive to ACMA's suggestions and inputs. I am grateful to the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises, our nodal ministry, for its unstinted support and guidance. This would be the opportune time to place on record my appreciation for the support extended to us by the industry bodies such as the CII, SIAM, IMTMA, and others. I would also like to thank all our members for their unwavering support. I would particularly like to thank the Vice President, Nirmal Minda, the regional committee members, the zonal chairpersons, the past presidents, the Chief Mentor Act, and our executive committee members for their guidance and involvement. I also appreciate and applaud the efforts and support provided by the ACMA Secretariat, without which we could not have driven this year's agenda. My team on the left. Give it to them. Give it to them. Thank you very much. I am confident that as an industry, we will rise to the challenges and, with the support of the stakeholders, firmly build on the global quality manufacturing ethos that we have already established in the last few decades. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. Thank you very much.